Let this be resolved in the meeting duly 2019. Mr. Chairman, I bring this in form of a motion.
Have a motion, Mr. Graham, second, Ms. Wilson. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion? Opposed, like sign. So the motion carries unanimous with one's here. Thank you, Mr. Graham.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, if we have Coach Carson and players,
I will.
I'm down on him, probably like
No, but just want to thank y'all for this honor. Like Mr. Graham said, it was throughout this playoff run especially. It was neat to see the Star Isle community come out and really support us. And sure is neat. So again, from here today, they're at Senior Week this week. I know they're very appreciative of it and would like to hear, but I sure do like this kind of stuff. So thank y'all.
Congratulations. Congratulations, guys.
Moving on to item number 2C, R 2019-025. Resolution, Mr. Graham and Ms. Wilson. Who's going to do it? Ms. Wilson. Okay.
This is a resolution to recognize Madison Watson for her academic achievements and for her exceptional cheer performances and other matters related thereto. Whereas Madison Watson is a 16-year-old sophomore at Belton Honeypath High School. She's a member of the National Beta Club and is academically ranked second in her sophomore class. Madison has sustained a 4.85 GPA or higher during her attendance at Belton Honeypath High School. And whereas in 2011, 8-year-old Madison Watson began cheering and has cheered continuously for 9 years. Whereas in 2013, Madison began cheering as a rock star cheer in Greenville at all levels from tumbling to stunting capabilities. And whereas in 2015, at 12 years, Madison began cheering in school during the 7th grade and has continued as a varsity cheerleader for 5 seasons. And whereas Madison is a 4-time varsity letterman in cheerleading and was voted MVP by her teammates in 2015, 16, 17, 18, and whereas Madison has been competing in cheer competitions since 2015 and has been named Varsity Summit Champion, USASF World Champion Silver Medalist, USASF World Champion, NCAA National Champion, UCA National Champion, Cheer Sport National Champion, and South Carolina State Cheerleading Region Champion. And whereas Madison Watson and the Rockstar Cheer Beatles did compete in Orlando, Florida on March 10, 2019, during this competition, the team won the title of 2019 Triple Crown Grand Champions for having the highest score in this level of competition. And whereas the Anderson County Council is proud of its youth who demonstrate qualities of vision, dedication, and personal commitment. As a result of your hard work, sportsmanship, and nice attention to detail, you have the ability to be successful in a highly competitive environment. We are proud of your accomplishments, and we wish you great success in all of your future endeavors. Resolved in meeting duly assembled this 4th day of June, 2019. May I put that in the form of a motion?
Yes, you may. Have a motion, Ms. Wilson. Have a second. Second, Mr. Davis. Any further discussion?
Just a quick note that if you look at the backup, one would think that Miss Madison Watson must be 200 years old from all the accomplishments she's made in her short 16 years. So, thank you.
Anyone else? All in favor of the motion, show of hands. Opposed, like sign. So motion carries unanimously.
Here we have our fellow council members and Miss Watson and her family.
We're on next to item 2D, the resolution R2019-026. Councilman Wooten.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's with honor and regret that this resolution, but this is a resolution to honor Captain Robert J. Dolby IV and whereas Captain Rob and Heather Dolby under Southern Territory and Salvation Army, of which the Anderson, South Carolina Salvation Army is an affiliate. And whereas the mission of the Salvation Army is to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ and to meet human discrimination, its motto is doing the most programs that serve the body, mind, and soul. The Salvation Army works to alleviate the symptoms of poverty and the root issues that cause it. And whereas Captain Rob and Heather Dolby over the past years have exemplified the mission, motto, and programmatic goals on behalf of Anderson County residents most in need, making an indelible mark on our community for the better. And whereas Captains Rob and Heather Dolby, through their energetic, empathetic leadership, have forged unprecedented partnerships between our local governments, charities, churches, and other organizations, of which the fruits are evident and ongoing, including a new 30-bed shelter that makes Anderson County one of only a handful of communities in the United States that have enough beds for every person experiencing homelessness. And whereas Captains Rob and Heather Dolby conclude their duty in Anderson County and begin new appointments in Atlanta, Georgia, effective Monday, June 17, 2019. And whereas the Anderson County Council, on behalf of the citizens of Anderson County, in recognition of their extraordinary service to our county, do hereby honor and express profound appreciation to Captains Rob and Heather Dolby, wishing them only the best in their future endeavors. Resolved in a meeting duly assembled this 4th day of June, 2019, I put this in form of a motion.
Have a motion, Mr. Wooten, second, Mr. Sanders. Any discussion? I'd just like to echo Councilman Wooten's remarks as far as very privileged to give you this and honored, but at the same token, have regret. We're going to miss you. I want you to know you and your wife has had a lasting impression on citizens of Anderson County. We appreciate what all you've done for Anderson County. We'll be dearly missed, and we wish you very nothing but the best. Then all in favor of the motion, show hands. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Conclude.
Everyone would join up front. Mr. and Mrs. Dolby.
They say we get 30 seconds to say thank you, so I got to take the opportunity. Fair enough. I just want to say this. We know when we got to Anderson County, this is a county of abundance. We're growing. People are noticing the county, large part by the work of this county council. Anderson's a place people want to move to. Anderson's a place people want to send their kids to raise a family. Good place to live. It's been better to us than we could have ever been to Anderson. We also notice that more and more folks moving to Anderson for opportunity sometimes fall on hard times. As we stand here in government today, I would echo FDR said this: how do we measure our progress? Franklin Delano Roosevelt said we measure our progress not by the abundance we add to those who have much, but whether we provide enough for those who have little.
Anderson is one of the places we've lived out of many places as itinerant ministers in the Salvation Army. And it's big enough to be growing. It's big enough that people have opportunities to provide for themselves and for their family. But it's also small enough to still know your neighbors when you go to the grocery store and say hello. And we've enjoyed living here, and it's been such a tremendous blessing. But my favorite part is how neighborly this place really is. It's a loving community that cares for one another, and love never fails. Thank you very much.
Moving on now to item number 2E, proclamation. This will be a proclamation from Councilman Sanders. Sanders.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. This is a proclamation for the War of 1812 Patriot marking for David Russell. Whereas David Russell, a lifelong resident of South Carolina, having been born January the 1st, 1793 in Cane Creek, Pendleton District, and whereas David Russell enlisted October 6, 1814 in support of his country against the British, the United States having declared war on June the 18th, 1812, and David, following the footsteps of his father, Thomas Russell, and grandfather, Matthew Russell, born in North Carolina and South Carolina, patriots of the American Revolution, respectively, and whereas David Russell served his country in the War of 1812 as a private under Captain Chapman Levy's company of riflemen and later under McWillies Regiment, South Carolina Militia. And whereas David Russell, upon discharge on March the 5th, 1815 in Charleston, South Carolina, did return home, marry and raise a family of 6 children. And whereas David Russell died July the 7th, 1860 in Townville, Anderson County, South Carolina. Whereas the South Carolina State Society, United States Daughters of 1812, and the Hermitage Chapter, Tennessee State Society, along with the descendants of David Russell, wish to mark his grave in remembrance of his service therefore, and whereas the Anderson County Council hereby declare June the 2nd, 2019 to be a day of remembrance to David Russell and his fellow South Carolina soldiers who fought in the War of 1812 to preserve our way of life and to signal the world the might and the resilience of the United States of America. Proclaim this the 2nd day of June, 2019. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to bring that in form of a motion.
Motion, Mr. Sanders. Have a second, Mr. Wilson. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, show of hands. Opposed, like sign, so the motion carries unanimously. Anything else, Mr. Sanders?
Yeah, this was actually given on Sunday at the graveside at the Townville Baptist Church. The family actually came down from Michigan, and they were great. Told me to thank everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate
Thank you.
that. That'll conclude this part of our council meeting. We'll reconvene here at 6:30, about 4 minutes, start regular council meeting.
4 minutes. 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Where are you going?
Always. Boom. Almost.
I'm gonna stand with.
As long as you want to.
Hey, let me ask you a question. Yeah, I talked to him, it should have helped, but I don't know. Okay, I gotta start. Talk to some lady. Which one?
Hey, gather around, we're gonna get started. 6:30. We getting started. Start on time. 9A's been pulled. 9A. Yep, been pulled. This one. This one. This time I'd like to call the regular Anderson County Council meeting of June 4th to order. I'd like to welcome each and every here tonight. Thank you for coming. This time we will, if you would, this time the floor is not here at this time. I'm going to ask Mr. Davis to lead us in invocation, pledge allegiance. We'll raise, all rise, please. Go ahead.
Let us pray. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight as a county and as a community, and we thank you for the freedoms that we share. We ask you tonight to guide us as we govern as a council for the people, and we thank you for the opportunity that we have. We pray for those who have gone before us and served and given their lives for our freedom. We thank you for the folks that we've honored tonight, and we ask you to bless them and their households. And we pray all this in the sweet name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On item 3, the agenda, approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections or changes to be made to the minutes? I'm sorry. May 1st not received. I'm sorry. Not received and wrong. We move on before we go on to citizen comments. A couple of housekeeping notes. On the agenda tonight, 9A, contractual issues related to facility lease. An executive session has been pulled. And item 7B, ordinance to approve agreement for transfer of assets between the Anderson County, South Carolina, and REWA. That will be discussed in executive session. Come back out. If there's any votes taken, be voted in public. So 7B will be in executive session. Discussion. This time I ask Mr. Harmon. Time for citizens' comments. Number 4, Mr. Harmon calls your name. Does, for the record, if you'll state your name and district for the record, you have 3 minutes, and please keep items on the that's on the agenda this go around, and please address the chair, please. Mr. Harmon.
Mr. Chairman, first speaker is Melvin Gregory.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Administrator. I come before you about this $50 vehicle excise tax you wanted to put on us. Being a senior citizen, we cannot afford $50 per vehicle. Times are hard, especially once you're a senior. Your income, we don't have additional. Every time the county needs money, it seems like we need a revenue stream. Sir, we don't have that. And it's very difficult for us to make ends meet when these revenue streams just keep coming, seem like year in, year out. We need to do something about that. Mr. Chairman, I look for you to, address some of those items. Also, as far as the budget's concerned, do we have audits on credit cards? Do we look at the number of vehicles that the county has? Do we look at cell phones? And do we look at the amount of money that is spent when we go to Hilton Head, so that it's made public and we understand what's being done as far as the budget is concerned? And we need to look at vehicles very hard. The 2 times in the last 3 years I've asked me to come out. One was building standards and building codes. The gentleman came out in a Ford Exposition, looked at a house, nothing he could do. Second time came out about a gully problem they have in the house in front of me. He looked at it. Sir, we don't have money in the budget. We can't do anything for you. But he was driving a late model Chevrolet Silverado truck. Now, something is not right the way we're handling our money. We don't have a revenue problem. We got a spending problem. And we need to do something about it, and it needs to be done quick. I thank you.
Mr. Harmon.
Mr. Chairman, next speaker is Dan Harvell.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, it's good to see you. Always glad to see that we've got 6 out of 7 on the council that are Republicans, and we appreciate your service. I used to be a regular fixture here, almost every council meeting for many years, so you know if I've come back for this, it's very important to me. I've talked to a lot of people across the county about this proposed vehicle fee. A fee is actually just another tax. I've not talked with anyone that is for this. I know we may have exceptions for senior citizens, but there are a lot of other people in between youth and senior citizens that actually can't afford anymore. For instance, in the town of Honeypath, you can practically wash your hands with water 1 time a month, and your minimum bill is $5. Now that's a fact, and it may continue to go up more because the mandates and all that, but nonetheless, we're taxed enough already. We look to you as our representatives, as our elected officials. We look to you to trim absolutely everything you can to do what you can to keep taxes where they are now. There are people that I've talked to, and yes, they do have rather expensive vehicles, but some vehicle taxes are getting close to $1,000 now. That's a lot of money. The county is taking a lot of money based on the vehicles and the property taxes coming off those vehicles already. So we ask you to please consider and don't do this particular thing to the people. Now, I will say, I want to be fair, you have these problems based on some things that happened with the former administrator, and that is certainly to exclude Mr. Burns, the former administrator who went through almost a decade here with a puppet council that absolutely paid little attention to paving and maintenance of roads and bridges. So I do want to say that because that is something the general public needs to know. It's not all your fault that we are in the position that we're in now with our roads and bridges. But please do whatever you can to avoid this happening. Thank you very much, and thank you for your service.
Harmon.
Mr. Chairman, no one else has signed up.
Thank you, Mr. Harmon. We're on item number 5A, 2019-008, ordinance authorizing the execution delivery fee in lieu of tax agreement between Anderson County and South Carolina and company or companies known to the county at this time as Project Tarpon, with respect to certain economic development property in the county whereby such property will be subject to certain payments in lieu of taxes, including the provision of certain special source revenue credits. This will be a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to this matter, please step forward, name and district, and address the chair, please. Anyone else? Seeing and hearing none, public hearing to be closed. Mr. Nelson, you have anything? I know it's third reading. Do you have anything you want to say on this matter?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Certainly appreciate the opportunity. This is the company solar project, Southern Current, same company we have had projects with in the middle of last year. This is taking some current property that's paying $668 in annual property tax and converting that to paying $29,043 a year in property tax. And of course, there are no jobs created with this, but there are also no expenses that would be incurred by the county or the county schools. This comes to council's recommendation from the staff and from the Economic Development Advisory Board. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. We have a motion to move this forward.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Graham, second by Ms. Wilson. Any discussion?
May I very quickly?
Yes, Ms. Wilson.
About, on our fee in lieu of taxes, it sounds like the county will be getting a nice little hit, and it's certainly more than the current taxes, but it must be noted that 75% of that $29,043 goes to our schools.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Anyone else? All in favor of the motion, show of hands. Those like signs, so the motion carries unanimously. Moving on now to item number 5B, 2019-018, Ordinance to amend agreement for development of a joint county industrial and business park as 2010 Park of Anderson and Greenville counties, to enlarge the park to include certain properties. Project Browser. Be a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to this matter, please step forward, address the chair, state your name and district, please. Anyone at all? Seeing here none, public hearing to be closed. Mr. Nelson, you have anything you'd like to add?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This, of course, is a reciprocal agreement project for multi-county park agreement with Greenville. This is a project that is yet unannounced. I think I've given the name of the company to all the council members. The Project Browser is a long-standing company with great history in upstate South Carolina and really around the world. This allows Greenville to offer them some state benefits and incentives that otherwise would not be available to them. And of course, it's a courtesy agreement between and reciprocal agreement between Anderson and Greenville County in these multi-county park agreements. And this comes to council as a recommendation from the staff and from the Economic Development Advisory Board.
Mr. Nelson, anyone have any questions, comments? Mr. Nelson? We have a motion on, have a motion to move this forward. Motion, Mr. Wilson, have a second. Second, Mr. Graham. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, show hands. Those like signs, so the motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Nelson.
Sir, thank you for your support. Thank you.
On item number 9, 6A, ordinance, second reading. This was our operating and capital budgets of Anderson County for the fiscal year July 1st, 2019 and ending June 30th, 2020. We're going to a public hearing at this time. Anyone wishing to speak to this matter, please step forward, address the chair, state your name and district for the record, please. Okay. Mr. Burns.
There you go.
Okay, got it?
Right. Okay, there we go. Plain Presley District 4. I can seem to have concerns about this car tax. I know it's part of the budget. It's money that we're looking to take in.
Let me just correct one last. It's not part of the budget. It's not on what we're voting on tonight. Go ahead.
Okay.
And if it is voted on, just for the record, everybody out there has to have 3 readings, separate readings on its own.
All right.
But it's not on the budget tonight.
Once again, the car tax fee, whatever they're calling it, the way it's supposed to work is that we provide a service for the people in the county, and we then charge them a fee for that service. You can't just assess a fee and then try to back up and decide why you're doing it. If it's not offsetting a cost, it is a tax. All the tax, then the school's going to get 75% of it. If we call it a fee, we retain the funds ourselves. Now, the difference is a tax you have to pay. If this is money that people have to pay, it's not a fee. A fee is a discretionary money that you pay to use a service that the county provides. So, what we call this, I mean, I don't know what it's going to be, but we're really entering a slippery slope here if we call it a fee and then don't follow a gap to explain why that fee is necessary. Are we going to set up toll booths to collect fees from the other people that use those roads? Because you can't just single out a certain class of people to take on some, pay some monies that you don't charge anyone else. If you tell them, look, we're charging this fee because you're using the county roads, what about everyone else that's using the county roads? Are they not, I mean, you're going to run into some equal protection issues if some people are paying it and some people aren't. So let's nail down the language on this and make sure that we're doing this for the right reason. I know we need the revenue, but fees are not supposed to be revenue. They're supposed to offset a cost. So y'all think about that, because we don't want a bunch of lawsuits to start about this. it is of great concern. And you just heard two other people talk about senior citizens can't afford it. Well, I know you've talked about an exemption for senior citizens. Other people, they live on limited incomes too. So if we're gonna do this as a fee, let's think of some way. Are we gonna have a annual exhaust inspection or something that we do for the public in order to justify charging this money?
Anyone else? Anyone else? Public hearing be closed. We're moving on now. We have a motion to put this on the floor for discussion.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Graham. Have a second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Wooten. Now discussion. Have any?
Yeah, I mean, I've got some, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr. Graham.
On, just, for the public that's here tonight, naturally, this is really nothing more than policy as far as moving this forward. We have still got a long ways to go on getting to a, I guess, a settling point on our budget. There's still a lot of discussion going on, taking place daily with meetings, with committees, with department heads. Naturally, the size of our county, we have got to provide services. Naturally, I think I can speak for most of the council members up here. There's a huge concern with the possibility of raising any type of fee, tax, call it whatever you want to. But I mean, so with that being said, there's a huge concern. I know on my part, I've received multiple calls. Mr. Harvell, I'm surprised I've not received one from you, but I definitely take your opinion wisely. And I have received multiple calls throughout my district, and we are looking at this strongly. But again, we're moving through this process, and we are nowhere near, in my mind, a settling point as far as the final reading on our budget. But just wanted to kind of make those statements tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Hey, Mr. Graham, I just like to, a couple things. Two on the car fees, talk about, echo Mr. Graham's points. There's a lot more discussion to be done, a lot more information to be got if that has happened in public meetings, public hearings. To go, but two things I want to get, gentlemen, not rumors, that's what it is, how is that $50? Any discussion I've been in during this time, it hasn't been $50, hasn't been mentioned. Has been mentioned about a $65, people 65, senior citizens, being exemption, a few more exemptions, get figured about what that account. Also, what nobody don't even talk about, and I've said this time and time again, it's not revenue neutral, I know, but it would be a one-meal tax. As Mr. Preston's concerns about the legality of all this and all, that's a non-issue on that, and that'll be explained at a certain time on that right there. That's beating a horse that might not like the car fee, car tax, you can call it, but that ain't gonna be a problem. And I'll have some more talk here in a few minutes, Ms. Floyd.
My thing about the budget is that
good.
I like this. Thank you so much.
Birthday, happy birthday.
I like this.
That's birthday present.
My birthday present. Thank you. All those years I deserve something. My thing about the budget is that I've looked at it, read through it, and it's not a bad budget. It's not a bad budget at all. But there's one thing in it that I would like to have in it, even though I am a Democrat. There are 7 good people up here, not 6, 7 of us, okay? And I thought time had changed, but I guess they never will. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll bring up now what I would like to see added in this budget.
You can.
Okay. I would like to see, in this budget, I would like to see more money put in the area of demolition for the houses that we have in Anderson that are not livable. The only thing they're doing is attracting people that we don't want in our neighborhoods. We have one house, there are more than one, but there's one that's been bothering me, is that it's in a pretty nice community. It burned down. not to the ground, but it's really, really bad. But it appears to be a haven for drug addicts, drug buyers, and hanger-outers. You know what a hanger-outer is. I told the people in this situation, in this community, that we ran out of money and we could not finish, our job of taking these houses down. Well, I found out that we didn't run out of money, and there is money to do it. I'm asking that we put more money in the budget. $50,000 will not do it for 7 counties. Here is with math. 7 into 50 is how much? I'm not that quick, so I don't know.
7.
That's $7,000 per district, and that's not enough money. That's not enough money. How would you like it if you lived next door to a house that was burned down and nobody was doing anything about it? If the county can't do it, then the county ought to get behind the folks who could do it, the homeowners, and do something to make them do it. It wouldn't be that way in some areas of our counties. Then why is it like that in other areas? I don't like it. I don't want to live next door to that. So why make other people do it? County council members, I'm asking you to please, let's put more than $50,000 in the budget. District 2 alone has 4 houses that I know of that should go. We already have, and I know about what has to happen for it to happen that way. But that is my concern about this budget so far. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Floyd.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Graham?
can we get an approximation as far as what one house would cost to get tore down?
I've got Mr. Graham and let Mr. Burns answer in a second. We just brought this up, Ms. Floyd brought up at the last budget workshop. Our next budget workshop, we'll have this answers, how much money, the treasurer's got, how much money was actually spent, how much it cost, the long process at the next budget workshop. Get this information to all council members before third reading.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Ms. Wilson.
Regarding that issue, Mrs. Floyd is right. It is an excellent program that's very helpful across all of our districts. But it does have to go through a legal process, and it seems that it's been more helpful in District 7. A lot of it starts out as an environmental or trash or litter concern. We get that done, but a lot of times it involves out-of-state owners, and they're very hard to track down. But it takes about a year from start to finish to track them down and to go through all the legal processes to take the building down.
Unfortunately, if we could ever get the state to change the law, give us the same tools that municipalities got, would have something other. And I'm not throwing stones at our delegation because it's the state, got to pass statewide.
And if anyone else wants to go, I've got some suggestions for our budget consideration. To give us a quick recap, the summer sewer exemption will be rescinded and a vote tonight, and that will return about $125,000 to our sewer fund, which is an enterprise fund, and hopefully the REWA contract that we will take into consideration tonight will also take pressure off the sewer enterprise fund by taking over a lot of northern Anderson County sewer needs. If we also increase the building and codes fees, where we are way lower than all the other counties around, my recommendation is that we follow what Spartanburg does at about a 77% increase. To do this would put the burden back on developers, many of whom are not even natives or people who live here. They frequently in my district's been noted that there are problems and they're gone after they sell out. So I think that could probably bring about a $600,000 to $700,000 increase in fees. At the airport, by reinstating the ramp fees, then we could look at 70 to 75,000 back to the airport, which is a special revenue fund, but it does take funds sometimes from our general fund. It doesn't look like we quite have the revenue in this year's budget to cover all the expenditures, but I don't have the final tally. I would also like to request that at some point in the near future, we look at maybe a request for qualifications in the realm of maybe looking at eventually privatizing the airport. It's worth a look. If you look across all the other general fund departments, it looks to me like somewhere between $100,000 to $200,000 can be trimmed without strapping departments without funds and making them go through some hardships. Now, if we look at our animal shelter, we need to take the out-of-county intake numbers, which are like 1,051 was the last number we had of out-of-county animals coming to our animal shelter. Our animal shelter takes in about, I guess it was 5,500, 5,600 this last year for numbers of our own county animals. And I didn't realize that we were taking in from out of the county except for emergencies like hurricanes and so forth. But apparently our vets and staff at the animal shelter perform a number of surgical procedures for out-of-county animals. It does not look like, to me, that the out-of-county animals are they're not compensating our county adequately, I don't believe. It appears to me that if Pickens County had the same program, it would be pretty nice for our county to take advantage of that. I think we could reduce cost dramatically for our county taxpayers. So I'm requesting that we set up a separate ledger for out-of-county animal intake and increase our shelter's charges for out-of-county. I think we need to look at that carefully because in the numbers that we've seen, it doesn't appear to cover adequately overhead. And that budget is slated to go from, I think, somewhere around almost 1.8 million to almost 1.9 million. That is a lot of money, and it is a good shelter and a good program, and it sure beats the terrible reputation we had in years past for the way we handled our animals. So my hat's off to those good people. I think we really need to look at the Civic Center and review budget to actual and the contract for management out there. I know they had a later start in the year, but it sounds to me like we need to tighten up there really very much. Now, I don't know how many of you have actually had time to look at our budget ordinance, the verbiage part of it, but it was greatly concerning to me to see our transfer policy go from $20,000 within a department transfers to $30,000 in transfers requiring county council approval. That concerns me because, for example, at our airport, we have transfers that have yet to come before our council that far exceeded these numbers. So I'm going to make the motion, and I'll do that now if I may, to keep our transfer policy as it is currently, and that's $10,000. Let's see if let me flip over to that so I can give you the actual number. Okay, it would be section 20, no, that's 27. Section 26 on pages 16 and 17. And that's where our administrator may approve changes in a department budget from one line item to another in an amount up to and including $10,000 at any one time. Provided, however, the total department budget shall not increase, no new positions may be created, or capital expenses may be accomplished by such a transfer without county council approval. No transfer for any one type of good or services may be subdivided, split, or stacked for purposes of evading the requirements of this section. Aggregate transfers within the fiscal year within a department which exceed $20,000 shall require county council approval thereafter. All transfers shall be included in the administrator's report section of the county council agenda for council's review. And I would put that in the form of a motion.
Willis makes a motion, we leave the transfer, simple language, leave transfer as it is currently, to changing it. She's amending the original motion of the budget passing. That's amendment. So, and I second Ms. Wilson's motion. Any discussion?
Yes.
Ms. Floyd?
Okay. I am glad that Ms. Wilson, the councilperson for District 7 brought that up. But since we are not through with the budget workshop yet, are we not?
No, ma'am.
Okay, since we aren't through with the budget workshop yet, I think maybe we ought to, let's bring that up then. Bring it up at the budget workshop so we can all be looking at what she's talking about. Because evidently, well, I know we haven't discussed it yet, and I have missed it probably when I was going through the budget since we were concentrating on other things. So, like, I'm not prepared to vote on that yet. I want to see it, I want to read it, I want to discuss it, and then we can bring it back, to vote on it at a time when I know what we're talking about, and maybe some of others of you may do that too. Thank you.
Okay, my thing is, and technically it's got to be voted on to change. I think which is something. I don't see no problem on either side. Myself, voting on this tonight, keeping on second reading. We'll discuss this at our budget workshop. If we need to tweak it or change anything, third reading, we'll do it. We can do it then. Might even want to go back the other way.
Well, may I very quickly point out, it is in our agenda packet. If you picked up your packet Friday, it was in it.
Yep, I'm just saying it gives us all time to talk about in the budget workshop, pros and cons of it, and we can do that. But any more discussion on this? We'll vote, Mr. Wooten, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think I agree with Ms. Floyd on this, and the fact that I'd like to hear at the budget workshop just the rationale from staff of why they asked for it to change, and functionally how they do business, and so I can understand that, and I can see where we can move ahead and then go back or change or do what. But that's what I'd like to sort of hear is what was the reasoning by putting it forward.
And I want to hear it. I've talked to Ms. Davis about this. I want her to hear it that way. If we just tonight we pass just as is, and then we'll discuss it at the workshop. We'll either keep it, change it, one way or the other, on third reading. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Ms. Davis.
So let me get this straight. So we are considering the second reading of the budget, and we are going to leave the piece of it for the transfers as it is in the current fiscal year
That's
that
right.
we are now,
That's
and
right.
not change it to the 30,000.
That's right.
So the motion would be to keep it as it is today
That's right.
at the set limit of $20,000.
To keep that section 26 as it currently is, instead of what was put into our ordinance for consideration for fiscal year 1920.
And my thing is, before third reading, we have other budget workshops, we'll discuss this thoroughly, get staff's input, council's input, and have debate it, pros, cons.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. No, but I think we'll keep it like this right here for tonight.
Do what?
Keep it like it is for tonight, like your motion, vote on your motion, I think, and we'll talk about it. It needs to be changed at the next budget workshop. Ain't that confusing? We're making more confusion than we need to be. Just keep the same. All in favor of Ms. Wilson's motion, show of hands. All opposed to Ms. Wilson's motion. Show the motion carried. Mr. Davis, Mr. Sanders, Mr. Dunn, Mr. Graham, Ms. Wilson in favor. Mr. Wooten and Ms. Floyd opposes. Moving on, more discussion of the budget.
I had a couple of things.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, maybe this is a question of the administrator or Mr. Harmon, but with the development fees that we were talking about earlier, where there'd be an increased, maybe resemble pricing like for Spartanburg or Pickens, some of the comments around it talked about, out-of-town developers, and I get some of the things that are going on there. Is it possible, or would it be overly cumbersome to have where if you do not have your development or building business in Anderson and you're out of town, then you pay the higher amount, and if you're an in-town Anderson longtime resident, that we all know that you pay the current amount? Or would that be cumbersome from an administrative?
I don't think it'd be incumbent on if we'd be legal or not. Mr. Harmon might have to check that, and he might can answer. I ain't no law. He might can answer tonight. I don't know.
Mr. Wooten, my fear from a legal perspective about that is that we create some equal protection problems if we tried to do it that way. It as a practical matter may also be cumbersome to administer as well.
Okay. My thought process is I just didn't want the rationale for us to raise a fee based on somebody from out of town potentially doing the wrong thing and punishing folks in town who have done the right thing. But I guess we need to consider all those angles. And
I think, Mr. Ken, your point's well taken, but I think that's just a sidebar that got brought up. I think this got brought up in discussion in workshops, mainly I don't throw him on the bus, Mr. Sanders. He was talking, we're waiting and haven't, just the fact of being development standards hadn't went up. We hadn't had a price change in it since she's been here, I think over 10 years, Mr. Sanders, 13 years. Try to bring it in line. Most places, we're not, and it's not going to do it. If we do go on this, most places, that department, the fees is the operating expenses.
Okay.
So we're not, if it passes at some point in time, that's not even going to do that. So that's not going to, just trying to keep the tax burden off of the taxpayers so much on this renovation is what this is coming to on the fees. And there'll be up some more discussion. Ms. Wilson?
The fact is that it appears, looking at our budget to actual for those departments, that we are having to pay to run those far more than the revenue that's coming in. And then when you look at what other counties are charging, as you said, we're charging way lower. We should at least have revenues higher than what it actually costs to run those departments, because we have no impact fee here. That the fee funding for this would not be subject to sharing percentages across other levies. It would strictly stay in the general fund or could go to other programs. We would have better control over those funds. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
just one thing is,
Ms. Davis.
we had a,
Rita.
and I forgot what she is, Mr. Sanders might remember, but one fee out of that department, time you pay for the county pays for the advertising, all they lose is $200. So trying to fix some of this up.
$240 we lose on every zone here.
Mr. Chairman.
Lose.
Wait a minute, Mr. Wooten.
I just had two other quick things. I'm not necessarily familiar with how the raising of houses process works. I'll support Mrs. Floyd's request that we find ways to expedite that. And if District 1 has houses in that list, and she's asked earlier, I don't mind if that list is reorganized. I don't know the process for that, but if she's asked in the past and those 4 can be expedited, I'd be willing to work with her on that. The other item that I would like for the council to consider is potentially more funding for the Anderson Crisis Pregnancy Center. And I ask that for a couple of reasons. Is we've seen at the state level there's been a large debate on how these things are handled, and we've seen a debate on the national level. And the Crisis Pregnancy Center here in Anderson, it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, what your background is, race, color, creed. If you're a woman who's found yourself in a vulnerable position and you need help, they'll help you. And with everything going on with that issue on the state and national level, I think that's an organization that we can support and maybe do a little bit better for and working in this budget. And I'm willing to work with, items in District 1 to help facilitate that.
Well, we'll put that on the list, discuss that in the workshop.
Okay.
So we can see pros, cons. And I'd just like to, if I can, right quick, a couple things before I get too far down. We're back on. On the 1.8 to 1.9 increase on the animal shelters, we keep in mind, 77% of that roughly is salaries. We don't do nothing else. We implemented them salaries last year to put on that, so at least 23% for medicine and whatnot, and I've asked Ms. Davis to give some information next workshop to look at this. Also, don't be a little bit misleading on the out-of-town procedures for the animals coming in from out of town, and they're going back when the procedures is done as soon as able. We might not, and I talked to Ms. Davis to ask, and I want to talk to our veterinarian about this at a workshop, get some information. But the state world, we might not be making over it. We're making money. We made over $16,000. Make $16,500 be a fact. Now we might not be making what we might have want to make. I live that dream every day, just about, seems like sometimes. but that can be looked at and see. I don't think we can charge what a regular vet charges, but that might need some tweaking. But it is a profitable thing. They got the things broke down and all. What it costs. Like I said, that's a true number. So on that, and the Civic Center, I'm a wholehearted. I think we've gotten some discussion about looking at some things at the Civic Center as far as some, maybe another way about doing things. But keep in mind, when we went down this road on this contract about a year ago, we said it's going to be the second year before it paid any dividends. It's only the first year. And we got to, give them a shot as far as booking stuff and getting stuff. Just keep that in mind. I mean, when we voted on that, that was well mentioned. Mr. Graham, do you have something?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm sorry, I'm going to kind of hit on a couple of different topics that's been discussed as well. As far as the fees and building codes, I definitely think we need to look at our practices. No question. I mean, there's no way we as a county should be putting the burden back on the citizens that absolutely has nothing to do with that particular development, whether it's a house or whatever, but yet we're having to assist in paying the advertising fee and all that. No question, we need to make adjustments. I think we should somehow get that department kind of halfway self-funded there. But in the same respect, I think we need to be careful. We don't want to discourage growth either.
That's right.
We have been so blessed with economic development as far as manufacturing companies, large companies coming in, providing our citizens jobs to provide for their family. Well, guess what? The housing market it's already taken off, and I'm comfortable in saying it's even going to grow more over the next several years. We don't want to discourage that where they can drive to Abbeville County, to Greenwood County, to Greenville County, or to any of our neighboring counties and develop up there and come out cheaper and drive over here to work. Because guess what? If they're only working here, they're going to spend their money in another county. They're not going to come back over here just because they work here and spend their money. So we need to be very careful on that. And I know that's a fine line. I definitely support some of the discussions that we've had. I just want to be mindful of that there. One of the other things, as far as the house demo, I'm definitely anxious to get some more information on that, on what it costs us. I think that is a major thing we have throughout the county. It's not partial to any district. If you think it is, you're probably fooling yourself. But I mean, I think we can get some more information on that and hopefully gain some more support of that as well. Councilman Wooten brought up about Anderson Crisis Pregnancy Center. That group has tremendously impacted multiple families in our Anderson County. It's local. It's not a handout. That is not what they're there for. It's a hand up. They prepare these moms for parenting as well as creating a healthy environment for the entire family, and also assist in trying to get some type of education, some type of trade, some type of schooling, where they can go and literally get jobs to be what? Self-supportive of their family. It's a hand up. I mean, that program over there, I mean, they're there to impact every one of our communities. And guys and ladies, I mean, I'm comfortable in saying it's not one district that impacts. I mean, I don't care what type of household you come from, how you raise your children. You can have young teens getting pregnant, and they need that guidance. They need that type of care there. So I definitely would support relooking at possibly funding that some more. The Civic Center, I mentioned that. I'm with Chairman Dunn on that. I know that we have not truly seen a huge impact from the contractual agreement that we've got with them. However, I was right in the middle of when we were negotiating this, and as well as the rest of the council members, and it was no hidden fact. They cannot book a show for some of these artists over a couple months. They're booked out for a year or more. So truly speaking, we're not going to see that impact until this coming year. If we're sitting here this time next year and we still have the same concerns, I promise you, I'll be the first one raising my hand saying we need to change this contract. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Sanders.
On those fees that we're discussing, those fees are not to control development or to send some developer to another county. All it is doing is bringing our fees within line with the market. And bringing it in line with the market is also, me as a taxpayer and the taxpayers that I represent, we shouldn't be subsidizing someone's development or building. So basically all it's doing is bringing us up to market level. It's not going to impact or determine whether someone builds in Abbeville County or not. We're going to be in line with everyone else. Right now, we're probably one of the lowest around, and not only we're the lowest, our taxpayers are subsidizing a lot of it. So I would like to see us at least be in line with the market and take some of that burden off our taxpayers. Thank you.
Along them lines, I agree with that, Mr. Sanders, wholeheartedly. I can appreciate the hard work you're doing this, but also Mr. Graham might not have put it exactly like I'd like to see it. You know, I don't think you can go from here to yonder one file. So I think we might have to, and I ain't saying baby steps, but we, instead of going 77%, might do 40% or 50% or something. I mean, you start taking a big jump one time, don't make us all swallow it at one time. Something let's look at and talk about in further discussion in our workshops and all.
Chairman.
Let Ms. Wilson Wood get this.
On page 73 in our general fund under building and codes, you will see that department is recommended for slightly more than $1 million. It costs a lot. We have to do a lot of training. We have to have trained personnel to do everything from electrical to plumbing inspections, and they're really stressed for time right now too. I agree with Mr. Sanders that we need to make an adjustment upward, and I chose Spartanburg because it more closely resembled the figure that I thought. We've got a handout that was given to us last week, I believe at the workshop, if I what the other counties are charging.
I think we all got that, Ms. Wilson. We've seen it, and I think we've been doing Pickens, Abbeville, Round, and Greenwood, and Spartanburg is, I think we was honed in on, so got that when you thumbed through that. Mr. Davis, you have something?
Mr. Chairman. I thank Councilwoman Floyd for bringing up the demo of the houses. As we look forward, and I completely understand or try to understand her plight in her district as she struggles with these things. And as we look forward to grow as a county, we've got to take care of this type of business. And I foresee having some of the same issues in District 6 in the Piedmont area. We'll have to take care of some of these. And we need to make sure that we know what we're doing and what the costs are and how we go about to take care of it. So I thank you, Ms. Floyd, for bringing that up and making that part of our discussion. As far as the animal shelter goes, I am, being an animal lover, I am a big proponent of our animal shelter and the staff that we have and our county staff that supports it. I do think we do need to make sure that we're covering our costs. And if we're doing services for other agencies, then we need to make sure that our costs, including any and all overhead, are being covered there. and some of the volume that comes through there, and it helps us cover some of our costs. That's even better. At the same time, the Crisis Pregnancy Center, folks have brought that up, and that is an admirable cause, and I think that we've got to make sure there's a lot of areas in our budget. There's a lot of services in our county that we can tend to overlook, and we got to make sure we cover those. But at the same time, we have to control costs, and can't just continue to let things get out of control. So, but I think we got to make some smart decisions. Appreciate my fellow councilmen bringing these things up. As far as the fees for the development, this is a thing that's very near to my heart as we look towards in District 6, the explosive growth that District 6 has seen in the last several years. I'll put it in a simple way. I think it's time that people pay to play. And if they're going to come in and they want to come in and build, especially in unzoned, unincorporated areas, and build tract homes, then the fees need to be effective of our neighboring counties. And I thank Mr. Sanders for bringing this up, especially the part of the driveway aprons and finding that money there. At the end of all this, the big kicker, any discussion that you'll have with me is paving. We've got to pave roads. We've got to find a way to pave roads. Chairman Dunn has brought up more than once, if we'd have had the freeze this past winter that we had 2 years ago, we would be in a catastrophic event with asphalt in this county. So we've got to find money to pave it. And millage is not the answer. Can't be the answer because we don't get the money we deserve through that and to pave the roads. We've got over 1,500 miles of county roads, and we're getting enough right now from the state to pave about 10. So we've got to find ways to pave roads. That is the backbone of our whole county, and leave it at that, and I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Again, I just want to reiterate on the animal shelter, and we'll have a discussion for everybody to see and break down on the budget workshop coming up, but this is coming, not only are we covering our costs on the spade and everything, it's making $16,500. And so I think the argument is, or not the argument, but discussion should be, is the profit adequate enough, or it should be more on the fee thing?
I need to ask one thing.
Yeah, that's what.
I was just going to ask, with the administrator potentially on Friday at the budget workshop, as we're discussing these building fees, and I totally understand where being in line with other counties makes sense, especially since we're having to subsidize that entity. But if we reform the fees to match other counties, at the same time, I think it's logical to look, are we offering the same level of streamlined services other counties are? And if we reform the fees, can we make sure that we're making sure that people are getting treated equitable, that it's an easy process, that it's a clear process, and that there's mechanisms that people don't get confused and feel like they're going from one partner to the other. But I feel like if we're going to talk about adjusting to other counties, we need to make sure that the service or the structure we're providing matches other counties also.
That's a good point.
No, Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
we did streamline that. There may be some tweaks to the system, but we called it the one-stop shopping instead of sending builders and so forth running all over the county from DHEC to this office and that office. So that's been accomplished. Thank you.
I think we have, under Mr. Burns' direction, have done some one-shop shopping, but I think there's always what you're doing, make sure you're doing the best you can do, and I think there's always room for improvement. This time, I'd like to make a motion to amend the budget to adopt the 4 pages of, these are tweaks we've seen in our workshop. Nothing changed. We all had these 4 pages of our workshop way, and we might have to go back and tweak this some more for third reading. These are the Ms. Davis went over it line by line last budget workshop meeting to get these incorporated into our budget. make that form of a motion.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a second.
I'll second.
Second, Ms. Wilson. Now discussion.
Yes.
May I?
Mr.
Let
Chairman,
Ms. Floyd first.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
what are you advocating on this? Tell me
We,
again.
these are what we went over with, I can't remember what day it was, last budget workshop, Ms. Davis, to add that, that's the intent, the numbers, to make the numbers, most of it to match up and everything. Ms. Davis went over, that's, I'm adding that for second reading, and we're not here to say there might not need to be some more tweaking before third reading on them things, but tonight to give us a starting point to get in this thing, not hit us all at one time, third reading.
So we accept this one and go on with our tweaking,
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Wilson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It must be noted that in our public hearing tonight, the revenues for 18-19 at a 64 mil rate were $79,990,055. Projected for 1920 would be $83,120,465. That's an almost $3 million increase, but not one penny for paving. We've managed to increase salaries, very deservedly so, across a lot of departments of the county. That was definitely needed. And one good thing I'm hearing from a lot of our county employees, when we changed our health benefit package, they feel like they're having better access to doctors. And one of them told me yesterday that it's actually less expensive to her as a patient to participate in our health insurance program. So that's good, but I really, really hesitate to do anything in the way of, until we have a more complete discussion of the budget in the way of a vote. Thank you.
Fine. I also want to say on the salaries, not to leave out, because it would be like the job was completed. It hadn't been. And really, if I'm not, the ones that voted for the budget last year made a promise. I know we got 2 new people on it. This was phase 1, but they carried out to phase 2 on our salary things, if we was going to do this. And I hope fellow council members see fit to do that, make it fair, make all this thing. But are there any more discussion on this?
One more quick.
Sorry, yes.
Okay.
What are we talking about?
I found it. We did have a promise last year that because of intake being lowered at our animal shelter, we would adjust our budget down, and instead it went up over 100,000. And I was concerned, as I pointed out, that 1,051 of the intake numbers come from out of the county. So I'm hoping we'll get a pledge to look at tightening that budget. Thank you.
We're going to look at that, but again, the $100,000 that went up in the animal shelter thing, 77% of that is in salaries that we voted on last year to do, take them out. Also, as I said, we're going to talk about this at the budget workshop by intakes. Also, I asked Ms. Davis to find out, if y'all remember, the animal shelter, if I'm not mistaken, did not get everything it asked for last year. And that's the reason we had to do some transfers and about the medicine, too. Any more discussion on this 4 pages tweaking? All in favor of the amendment, show of hands. Opposed, like sign. So the motion carries on amendment. I'd also at this time make another amendment to adopt the reallocating the departments 5181 Sheriff Special Services and other existing departments. As we talked about, Ms. Davis talked about Monday. Dave, you come up and help me out on this right here. You might be a little bit more acquainted to this. This is what Ms. Davis talked about, and the Sheriff, Captain Brown, was talking about. All this is money's not changing or nothing. This is just realigning. It has to be done in the budget.
That is correct, sir. The sheriff actually requested this so that the expenses will be functionally aligned underneath the detention center or the sheriff's department. So you'd have your transport officers, your building security, animal control, reporting and in the budget of their supervisors. So that's all this is. The net impact on the bottom, 0.
I put that in form of a motion. Have a second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Wooten. Now discussion. More. Got ahead of himself. Any more discussion on that? All in favor of motion, the amendment motion, show hands. So motion carries unanimously. Any more discussion on, budget? All in favor of the motion, move this forward to third reading, show hands. All opposed? So the motion carries. Mr. Davis, Mr. Saunders, Ms. Floyd, Mr. Dunn, Mr. Graham, in favor. Mr. Root, Ms. Wilson, opposed. Moving on to item number 6B. I'm sorry. Yeah, 6B, 2019-019, ordinance amending sections 55-38 of the Code of Ordinances of Anderson County regarding retiree insurance as to make the code section consist with benefit plan. We talked about this before. Mr. Davis here to answer any questions. We have a motion to move this forward. Motion, Mr. Wilson, have a second. Second, Mr. Davis. Now discussion.
I just wanted to clarify one thing. I mean, this will affect some folks in my area, and it's sometimes not intuitive how we work with water systems and sewer and everything. But the understanding is that people were getting a break in water because they were potentially filling up.
That's not. We ain't got that one yet.
Oh, all right, I'm talking about the wrong one.
6B. Anyone else? All in favor of the motion, show hands. All opposed, like sign, so motion carries unanimously. Moving on to 6C, 2019-020, ordinance to amend section 66-126 of the Code of Ordinances of Anderson County, South Carolina, as to delete summer adjustments from the sewer ordinance. We have a motion to move this forward.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Davis, second, Ms. Wilson. Now discussion. Before we go, and that's the one Mr. Wooten, I think, is one time. Mr. Davis, you just, it's in there, just hit on, what the proposal was, you know, remember on this right here about the exception. Mr. Davis, I'm doing that.
Exception. The exception would be for those folks who have swimming pools that are on sewer and then only have one primary water tap, would be that they would get one exception per 12 months to be able to fill their pool up and not be responsible for paying the sewer that water you fill the pool up. Preference would be for folks with irrigation systems and swimming pools to be able to get a water tap that's not conducive to correct in that. So that would
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Mr. Wooten?
Okay, this wouldn't be implemented right away, that there'd be a delay in it, because I think what's key here is that people understand it, because I think what's going to happen is a lot of people, they're busy, they go back and forth to work, they got families and everything, and they're just going to get a bill one day and it's going to be more, and then they're going to say, I don't know what summer adjustments mean. So as long as we have a time gap where we can identify some of these people and say, look, there's going to be a change, but don't worry, because there's going to be an exemption in there for your pool, and be able to map out to them that if you do get another water tap, that you're going to see the break in the meantime that will offset it. I guess I just want to make sure there's a
there is, Mr.
plan.
Mr. Davis, when was the realistically this can be implemented? We said next summer. Is that correct?
Ma'am.
A year from now.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Wilson, then we'll come back to you. Okay. Look.
The county collects a 3 mil tax that goes to the sewer enterprise fund, and every taxpayer in the county contributes to that, whether they're on sewer or not. Anything, we would be paying for treatment regardless. We're already paying for it, so it's still cost to the taxpayer. I can tell you I had to go out and splurge and buy another tap myself recently, and that was $990. But when you look at the cost of irrigation and filling a pool, it's a very cost-effective measure. It pays for itself in quite a short time. So anyway, I'm for rescinding the summer adjustment. Thank you.
Mr. Sanders?
This is one, Mr. Davis, that will allow us to collect, where we had some issues with collection.
That's right.
Okay.
This will let the water company start back billing what they wouldn't bill before, and if somebody don't pay, they'll have a right.
David, what is that figure?
Yeah.
The figure we owe, Derek, we're losing,
or the
roughly.
$1,000, but Hammond, about over $30,000
A year.
a year.
Allow us to collect.
Balance is over.
Yep.
Okay.
Deemed uncollected.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All in favor of the motion, show of hands. Opposed, like sign, so the motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item number 7A, ordinance first reading, 2019-022, ordinance to amend the zoning map to rezone plus or minus 0.59 acres from C2 highway commercial to -1, a service district at 108 Chippewa Lane. Does that say it right?
Yes,
District 7. The Myers, you we'll go into that if you want to give us a little bit of information, and we'll go on from there. You got anything you'd like to add or staff's perspective?
Yes, sir. Just real quick. Thank you, Chair. Before you this evening is a rezoning request for approximately 0.5 acres located at 108 Lane. It is for the stated purpose of a transportation business, currently zone C2 or highway commercial zoning classification, and the request is for S1 service district classification. The property is located within the Williamston Mill precinct, again in District 7. The district's zoning advisory group was unable to meet on May 1st due to a lack of quorum. Therefore, it is deemed to have approved this according to our code, Chapter 70, Section 10.2. And then on May 14th, the Planning Commission did hold a public hearing, and they recommended to send this forward with their recommendation of approval before you. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to.
Thank you. We're going to go in a public hearing on this matter, and then we'll come back for discussion, motions. When we wish to speak this matter, put it forward, state your name and district, and address chair, please. Anyone at all? Hearing and seeing none, public hearing be closed. We have a motion to put this on the floor. Motion, Mr. Wilson, have a second. Second, Mr. Graham. Now discussion. Mr. Wilson, you have any?
May I very quickly make a question? So the transportation dispatch group could not operate in a commercial zone. It didn't classification within that. So that's why we had to change this one.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The applicant did ask our zoning administrator, and it was determined that it would not be allowed on the C2.
Well, once we have that bridge replaced at Cherokee Road and all that area, it will be quite a hub for transportation.
Anyone else? Anyone at all? All in favor of the motion, show hands. Opposed, like sign, so the motion carries unanimously. We're going to, at 7B, rewire things going into executive session. So if we can, we got a couple of items we'll handle, and we'll take a break. That's all right for everybody. We're going to go item 8A, Resolution R 2019-027, resolution to reinstate the collection of ramp fees pursuant to Section 6-186 of the Code of Ordinances of Anderson County, South Carolina at the airport. We have a motion to move this forward.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Sanders, second, Ms. Wilson. And I think it's come out of no, it didn't. Sorry. Anyway, any discussion?
I just want to clarify, and I think this was my understanding from the budget workshop, that these ramp fees are paid by folks who fly planes into Anderson County and not by folks who own planes in Anderson County. And I just wanted to, knowing Councilman Sanders flies, is that the way you understand it, Mr.?
Yes.
Okay.
And keep in mind, we had these ramp fees, council, probably a couple years ago, probably longer than that. Took them out, experimented, and it was a failure. It wasn't nothing, so it's time to put them back and do something about it.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yep.
The airport, in order to qualify for federal grants and funds of that nature, must be self-sustaining. And once we waived the ramp fee, we lost about $72,000 annually. And part of that was in a reduction of fuel sales. And the incentive here is when we have out-of-town planes landing, if they purchase fuel, they don't pay a ramp fee, so it equals out fine. Thank you.
All in favor of the motion? We got something,
I have a
Floyd? Go ahead, Ms. Floyd.
Okay, you have one too?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, when did we waive that ramp fee?
If I'm not be wrong, do you know?
Is in 2017.
Okay, 2 years ago.
2 years ago?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so it's been gone for 2 years.
All in favor of the motion, show of hands. Those light signs, the motion carries unanimously. Now moving on to 8B, R 2019-028, resolution to approve the participation agreement with the City of Greenville, South Carolina related to a pavement project utilizing the hot in place recycling method. Mr. Burns.
Mr. Chairman, this is a project that will not cost Anderson County anything. It will be paid for by the Anderson County Transportation Committee. It would be an agreement between Anderson County and the City of Greenville. It is a new paving system, new to us, that's used out west a lot. And in order for it to work, and for order for us to take advantage of it, we have to partner with the City of Greenville. But in essence, this huge monster of a machine will go to Levis Smith Road, which is off Liberty Highway, and it will literally eat the road in front of it, reconstitute the asphalt, add new asphalt in it, and put it down in one fell swoop.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
And you said it wouldn't cost us anything?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Because it's coming from the Anderson Transmission.
Oh, they do the, oh, okay. Gotcha.
Anyone else?
Mr. Burns.
Mr. Davis.
Who actually owns the?
The company on, and it's not good for a lot of our situations, but it is on that road.
Ms. Floyd.
One more question. Do we pay money to the Anderson Transportation System for
No, ma'am.
anything at all?
No, ma'am.
They don't get anything from us?
No, ma'am.
It comes from the state?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
They get a hard time from us. We have, anyone else? All in favor of the motion, show of hands. Opposed, like sign, the motion carries unanimously. This time I make a motion, we're going to executive session for contractual issues involving Rewa sewer agreement. We're going to, part of our motion is we're going to take about a 5 or 10 minute break before we do this, but I won't have a motion. We'll go ahead and second, Ms. Wilson. All in favor of the motion, show of hands. Opposed, like signs, motion carries. Answer. Like I said, take one when you go to the restroom, whatnot, let's do that. We'll meet back. So we can meet back there, so you can walk that yonder when we meet.
Okay, good.
Fine, okay?
Good. I'm gonna call him
Take
now.
your time.
Hey, can I say, sir? Who did that to the young man who did that?
Yeah, everything worked out. I was it was done today, and I was in Charlotte today.
What were you doing in Charlotte?
I was at a conference for our phone system.
Well, you should have taken me with you.
Oh,
My son lives in Charlotte.
Really?
Yeah. Greg. Gregory. I got to ask you something. Are you working with Rewa? Okay.
Got it.
This year. Mr. Evans. That game here was powerful. Everybody in the game. Everybody in the game. I will. That's a sign. I start getting a little nervous.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Brought it out this running. Bad that right there. But if you turn, I lied. Got one, my guy. Got one pony.
No, I got.
Oh hell no. No, I get it. So you need to get one. Good, Sam.
I don't know if I'm leaving. I might.
All right, buddy. If I don't.
I know what you mean.
Oh.
That's the only way to do it.
Perfect.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, may I make the motion that we come out of executive session having received information regarding the Rewa sewer agreement with no votes taken?
Have a motion, Mr. Wilson. Have a second, Mr. Sanders. All in favor of the motion, show of hands. This time, we're going to go back to 7B, ordinance first reading, 2019-023, ordinance to approve an agreement of transfer of assets by and between Anderson County, South Carolina, and Rewa. This is first reading only, be two more titles, and let the record show Ms. Floyd has recused herself, signed out, and has stepped out to the thing. Now, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Davis. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Wilson. Any discussion? I'm going to say there'll be two more readings on this, but prior to Mr. Davis and why Mr. Davis has been in office, this has been looked at, talked about for some time with staff. This ain't nothing just happening willy-nilly. It has been worked at and studied and to come to this. Like I said, two more readings. Any more discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Rewa already has this main sewer plant in our county that would serve a great deal of this area. And then they've got another sewer plant across the river that would sewer the other part. They're already in place here, and as Mr. Davis pointed out, they have the bonding capability to build out, which would be very difficult for us for so few users. But it's an area that's growing very, very quickly. Thank you.
And to get this done, Mr. Harmon, I think the gentleman agreement between the two entities have been this would take place at our start of our fiscal year. In doing so, keep in mind when Mr. Harmon deems necessary for ordinances and time frame, we'll have to have a special meeting to make this happen.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
So all in favor of the motion, show hands. All opposed, like sign. So the motion carries unanimously. Ms. Floyd, accuse yourself. Mr. Sanders, do you mind asking Ms. Floyd to step back in? We're going to be moving on now to item number 10. Does anyone have any appointments? Miss? Okay, anybody? No appointment. We move on to item number 11. Request by council members. Anderson District 5, rec account or special rec account would like to appropriate $490. Put that in form of a motion to move into the sports, give that money transferred into the sports and then center at the Civic Center right there. Put that in form of a motion. Second. Ms. Wilson, any discussion? All in favor of the motion, show hands. Opposed, like sign. So the motion carries unanimously. Any more requests by council members? Do we have any?
I have.
Ms. Floyd, you got one.
Mr. Chairman, I have three requests. Two of them are entities that have requested from before, so I don't have any paperwork. Is that?
Just get the paperwork and we'll move on. I mean, do it tonight and then get it.
The paperwork is on file.
Okay, let's get, okay.
One is to Meadow Forest Elementary School for their commitment exercise. I'm asking for an allocation of
Okay.
And the other one is for Men at Work. They're having a program whereby they're going to honor, out of the neighborhood, the men years ago who got the sports program going.
I'm sorry, Ms. Whipple. Ms. Floyd, the mic a little bit.
On the mic,
Oh, I'm
okay.
sorry.
All
Gotcha.
right, so they're talking about $200. Okay,
Yep.
that's in the form of a motion. And one more, on Monday at 1 o'clock, we're going to have the honor of entertaining the person who is in charge of all of the census in America. Is that right?
Uh-huh.
He's going to be here with us, and District 2 would like to allocate $1,000 for the luncheon for that day that they're asking. So there's three different things. Okay, yeah, here it is. His name is Dr. Stephen Dillingham. We are honored to have him in Anderson for that day, but we need to look at why he chose Anderson, and that was because we didn't do too well on the last census. We undercounted a lot of people, and he's coming to look at the issue, to understand why, and to help us understand why.
I'm just smiling and thinking he ain't coming to county, is he?
Oh, no. But anyway, District 2 would like to spring for the luncheon for that day. So it's going to be held at West Side School. But anyway, there were three things I'm asking for funds for.
Ms. Floyd has a motion, have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Sanders, any discussion? I'd like to say one thing, on the men at work. I just talked to a couple of those gentlemen, and they good news that the youngster we talked about here a couple of meetings ago that couldn't make it, Ms. Floyd was on honor, is supposed to be home, I believe, tomorrow. And so that's great news. They said he's pretty much fully recovered on the way to thing and no side effects, so that's great. Glad to hear that. And so yeah, maybe we can get Ms. Floyd and get him back up here when it gets time.
Good.
All in favor of Ms. Floyd's motion, show of hands. Like sign, so the motion carries unanimously. Ms.
Thank
Floyd,
you.
anything else?
Uh-huh.
Mr. Graham?
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
No, Mr. Graham's got something. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
we have a request. We want to take some money out of Mr. Graham's road fund that's allocated in one area, and we want to transfer it to Ebenezer in another area for paving. This is paving money. This is not recreation money at all. This is paving
We're just
money.
moving money around.
Up to $20,000.
Have a motion, Mr. Graham, have a second. Second, Mr. Davis, any discussion? All in favor of the motion, show of hands. All opposed, like sign, so the motion carries. And moving on. You got anything else? Anybody else have anything else? Moving on, go ahead. How we going to? Administrator's report.
Nothing at this time, Mr. Chairman.
And citizens' comments. Mr. Harmon, call their name.
Mr. Chairman, no one signed up at this point.
This time, remarks from council members. Mr. Davis. Okay. Mr. Sanders.
Nothing at this time, sir.
Ms. Floyd.
I have one thing, and this is directed to our administrator. Mr. Dunn.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know your name.
Mr. Burns. Mr. Dunn. You always make him feel good. You can call him Mr. Dunn anytime. It really swells his head up.
Mr. Burns, I know we all sat before our TV as we looked at those county people being shot to death. Was it Virginia?
Virginia.
Okay, all right. And I got to worrying about our people. Are we protected? Are we protecting them the best we can?
Ms. Floyd, Lieutenant David Baker and I discussed on Monday the situation we had in our county office buildings. I directed and requested Lieutenant David Baker to begin active shooter training in all of our county office buildings. We are going to begin at the annex. That is under the sheriff's office. Lieutenant David Baker is coordinating that. We're also looking at the security in this building and looking to have our person who is currently not as equipped to handle a situation like that is all. But yes, ma'am, we put that into effect on Monday, and we should begin that soon.
Okay. I always worry about that space Up there, okay, and I thank you for doing that, because that really concerned me.
Ma'am.
And Greg Wilson, Mr. Wilson, may I see you after the meeting, please? Thank you, thank you.
Mr. Graham? Mr. Wood? Well,
Very quickly, June 13th, we've been invited over to the annex for a meeting with Mr. Randall Arendt, who is doing a seminar the next day at the Civic Center to help us upgrade our development standards here in this county with some kind of conservation plan in place for properties that are to be developed. And this is a very rare opportunity, because I know Ms. Alicia Hunter's tried for 13 years to get him here. And I'm hoping to have some of my forestry and conservation easement people to come also on the 14th to provide some resource information to our developers, that there are tax incentives and things of that nature that could be utilized to their advantage to incorporate some of those ideas into their plan. Thank you.
thank you. A couple quick things. Ken, I think it was last week or week before last, I know Mr. Sanders and Mr. Davis went to the 4-county meeting over in Greenville with Pickens, Oconee, Anderson, Greenville. So we're the hosting county at the next meeting. It's probably going to be either August or September. All of you we'll get the date nailed down and where to be at and everything. I think they learned some, and I know Mr. Burns went, and also Mr. Williamson went, IT department, and talked to them. They learned some good stuff, and look forward to hosting them in our county. Get talking. Next thing, and I ain't got to be here by no means, but next time I'm available for a budget workshop will be Friday around lunch. Would that work? And we're going to have more. I mean, what you call it? Yeah. Yeah.
I can't either.
Okay. We'll see what we can come up with then. Yeah, but instead of lunchtime, can you do it some other time Friday? I don't know how to look to see. Would you?
Work for me, because we have these people coming.
You got census people coming Monday, right? Yeah.
1 o'clock.
We'll get together and get most of it, because there are going to be more meetings, and all of us might not be able to make it. We got a lot of work to do, so we got to have some budget workshops to get started on this thing. So we'll be in touch. Anything else? Meeting adjourned. Thank y'all for being here.
Thank you, darling. Good? Okay, good. I'm fine. Thank you so much, Mr.
See ya.
Dunn. Hi. How's your schedule for next